You're a disappointment. Your brother. He's my pride and joy. That's what my father said to me, at dinner, in front of everyone. My mother nodded, smiled even, like she'd been waiting years to agree with him out loud. I didn't yell, didn't defend myself, didn't throw anything or storm out dramatically. I just stood up, grabbed my jacket, and left. No one followed me. I never thought I'd have the guts to talk about this, but here I am. And if you've ever been treated like you're invisible in your own family, you'll understand why I did what I did next. My name is Elliot Dawson. I'm 22 years old, and this is what really happened. The dinner was supposed to be a celebration. My younger brother, Tyler, had just closed his first real estate deal. Nothing major, a small condo in the suburbs, but you'd think he'd discovered oil the way my parents talked about it. Tyler's going places, my dad said, raising his glass. That's what I call ambition. I sat across from him, eating quietly. I'd learned a long time ago not to compete for their attention. It never worked. My mom leaned over, touching Tyler's arm like he was fragile. We're so proud of you, sweetheart. Tyler grinned. He loved this. Always had. Then my dad looked at me. Really looked at me. The kind of look that says, I wish you weren't here. Elliot, he said, when are you going to do something worth talking about? I set my fork down. I've been working on something. Working on what? That tech stuff? That's not a real career. It's software development, Dad. I've been freelancing for... Freelancing. He laughed. A cold, bitter sound. That's just a fancy word for unemployed. Tyler smirked into his wine glass. My mom sighed. Elliot, honey, maybe you should think about getting a stable job. Something steady. Like your brother. I didn't respond. I'd stopped trying to explain myself to them years ago. But my dad wasn't done. He set his glass down hard enough that the table shook. Then he said it. You're a disappointment. Your brother, he's my pride and joy. The room went silent. My mom didn't defend me. She just nodded, like she'd been thinking it all along. Tyler looked down, but I saw the corner of his mouth twitch. He was enjoying this. I felt something inside me go cold. Not angry, not hurt, just cold. I stood up, slowly, calmly. Elliot, my mom started. Thanks for dinner, I said. Then I left. No one called after me. No one texted. No one apologized. I drove home in silence, my hands steady on the wheel. I lived in a small apartment downtown. Nothing fancy, just a one-bedroom with a decent internet connection and a workspace I'd built myself. I sat at my desk that night staring at my laptop. On the screen was a folder I'd been working on for 6 months. Inside that folder was something my family didn't know about, something I hadn't told anyone. A business acquisition proposal, a contract, a transfer of ownership. I'd been building something, quietly, carefully, while they looked right through me, and tomorrow morning, everything was going to change. I woke up at 6 a.m. sharp, like always. I made coffee, black, no sugar, and sat by the window watching the city wake up. My phone buzzed once, a message from my lawyer. It's done. Papers are signed. You're officially the new owner as of 8 a.m. Security has been briefed. No exceptions. I didn't smile. I just typed back, understood. Then I finished my coffee, got dressed, and left. The company was called Dawson Industrial Supply. My father had built it from the ground up 30 years ago. He was proud of it, obsessed with it. It was his legacy. And as of 8 o'clock this morning, it was mine. I didn't go there myself, not yet. I wanted to hear about it. I wanted to know what happened when he showed up and realized. My phone rang at 8:15. It was my mother. Elliot! Her voice was shrill, panicked. What did you do? I leaned back in my chair. Good morning, Mom. Your father just called me from the parking lot. He says they won't let him into the building. He says there's a new owner. Elliot, what is going on? I took a slow breath. The company changed hands. Legal acquisition. Everything's above board. Changed hands? To who? I didn't answer right away. Then, very calmly, I said, to me. Silence. Elliot, what did you do? I bought it, Mom. 6 months ago, I started putting together investors, silent partners, people Dad didn't even know existed. He was so confident, so careless with his financials that he never saw it coming. You can't do this. I already did. Elliot, please. Tell Dad he's welcome to submit a resume if he'd like to work there. But he'll need to go through HR like everyone else. I hung up. My phone exploded with calls after that. My dad, my mom, Tyler, family, friends. I ignored all of them. Instead, I opened my laptop and got back to work. Because this wasn't about revenge. This was about respect. And I was just getting started. Before I explain how I bought my father's company out from under him, you need to understand who I was before that dinner. Before the silence. Before the plan. Before I realized that blood doesn't mean loyalty. I grew up in a house that looked perfect from the outside. 2-story colonial in a quiet suburb, white picket fence, 2-car garage. My dad drove a Lexus. My mom drove a Mercedes SUV. We looked like the American dream. But inside that house, there was a hierarchy. And I wasn't at the top of it. Tyler was 3 years younger than me. Charismatic, confident. The kind of kid who could charm teachers, coaches, parents, anyone, really. I was quieter, more observant. I liked fixing things. Computers, electronics, engines. I'd spend hours in the garage, taking apart old radios or building custom PCs. My dad hated that. "Why don't you play sports?" he'd ask. "Why don't you go out with friends?" "I have friends," I'd say. "Online doesn't count." Tyler, on the other hand, played football. Dated the popular girls, got decent grades without trying too hard. He was everything my dad wanted me to be, and I was everything he wished I wasn't. By the time I was 18, I'd stopped trying to compete. I went to community college for 2 years, studied computer science, then transferred to a state school to finish my degree. I paid for most of it myself. Loans, part-time work, freelance coding gigs. My parents helped Tyler with everything. Tuition, rent, his car, his credit card bills. When I asked for help once, just once when my laptop died and I needed a new one for class, my dad said, "You're an adult now, Elliot. Figure it out." So I did. I sold some equipment, took on extra freelance projects, and bought a refurbished MacBook. That laptop became my anchor, my tool, my way out. After college, I got a job at a mid-sized tech firm, entry level, nothing glamorous, but I was good at what I did. Really good. Within a year, I was leading small projects, writing code that saved the company time and money. I kept my head down, learned everything I could, and started building a network. That's when I met Richard Carver. Richard was in his 50s, a venture capitalist who'd made his money in logistics and supply chain management. He came into our office one day for a consultation, and we got to talking. He liked me, said I reminded him of himself when he was younger. "You've got that quiet fire," he told me over coffee one afternoon. "The kind that doesn't burn out. It just keeps building." I didn't know what to say to that, so I just nodded. "You ever think about owning something?" he asked. "Not just working for someone else?" "All the time," I said. He smiled. "Good. Keep that hunger. It'll take you places." We stayed in touch after that. Email, the occasional lunch. He became a mentor in a way, and when the time came, he became an investor. I didn't go to my parents' house much after college, maybe once a month, holidays if I couldn't avoid it. Every time I went, it was the same. My dad would ask what I was doing. I'd tell him. He'd dismiss it. My mom would ask when I was going to settle down, find a nice girl, get a real job. Tyler would show up late, hug everyone, tell a funny story, and leave early. And they'd spend the rest of the evening talking about him. I learned to sit quietly, eat, leave. But I was always watching. I noticed things, like how my dad talked about the company, how he complained about cash flow, how he'd mention competitors, contracts, profit margins. He never thought I was listening, but I was. One night, about a year ago, I was at their house for my mom's birthday. Tyler was showing off pictures from a vacation he'd just taken to Cancun. "Dad paid for the whole thing," he said, grinning. "First-class flights, all-inclusive resort. It was insane." My mom beamed. "You deserve it, sweetheart." I sipped my beer and said nothing. Later, when my dad and I were alone in the kitchen, he asked me how work was going. "Good," I said. "I've been picking up side projects, consulting work." "Still doing that freelance stuff?" "Yeah." He shook his head. "You know, Elliot, at some point you need to grow up, build something real." I looked at him, really looked at him. "Like you did?" I asked. "Exactly. I built Dawson Industrial with my own hands. No handouts, no shortcuts." I nodded slowly. "How's the company doing?" He hesitated, just for a second, but I caught it. "It's fine," he said. "We've had some cash flow issues, but nothing I can't handle." "Cash flow issues?" It's temporary. Every business goes through it. I didn't push, but that hesitation stayed with me. That night I went home and did something I probably shouldn't have done. I looked up Dawson Industrial Supply, public records, financial filings, credit reports. It wasn't hard to find. The company was struggling, not failing, but declining. Slowly, steadily. My dad had taken out loans, missed payments, lost contracts. He was holding on by his fingernails, and he had no idea how bad it was. I sat at my desk, staring at the numbers on my screen, and for the first time I thought, what if? What if I could fix this? What if I could buy it? What if I could build it into something real? Not for him, for me. I reached out to Richard the next day. I need advice, I said. We met at a coffee shop downtown. I brought my laptop, showed him the numbers. He studied them for a long time. Then he looked at me. This is your father's company? Yeah. And you want to buy it? I want to save it and own it. Richard leaned back in his chair. That's cold, kid. He doesn't respect me, I said. Never has. Maybe this is the only way he will. Richard smiled. How much do you need? It took 6 months. 6 months of meetings, contracts, silent investors, legal loopholes. My dad never saw it coming, because he never thought I was capable of something like this, and that was his first mistake. The morning after the acquisition, I sat in my apartment drinking my black coffee, staring at my phone. 15 missed calls, 23 text messages. I ignored them all. Instead, I opened my laptop and pulled up the security footage from the company parking lot. I watched my father pull up in his Lexus, confident, smiling. I watched him walk toward the entrance. I watched the security guard stop him. I watched his face change. Confusion, anger, disbelief, and I felt nothing. Just cold. Just calm. Just ready. The calls didn't stop. For 3 days straight, my phone buzzed constantly. My parents, Tyler, aunts, uncles, family friends I hadn't spoken to in years. Everyone had an opinion about what I'd done. I didn't answer any of them. On the 4th day, my mother showed up at my apartment. I was working when I heard the knock. Sharp, insistent. I knew it was her before I even opened the door. She stood there in her usual outfit. Designer jeans, cashmere sweater, oversized sunglasses even though it was overcast. She looked tired. Older than I remembered. Elliot? She said. Not a greeting. A statement. Mom, can I come in? I hesitated, then stepped aside. She walked past me looking around my apartment like she was inspecting it. 1 bedroom. Minimalist. Clean. A desk with 3 monitors. A couch I barely used. A kitchen I rarely cooked in. You live like this? She asked. It's all I need. She turned to face me. We need to talk about what you did. I bought a company, legally. You stole your father's life's work. I crossed my arms. I saved it. He was running it into the ground. That's not true. Mom. I kept my voice level. I've seen the financials. He's been losing contracts for 2 years. He took out 3 loans he can't pay back. He's 62 years old and he has no exit strategy. No succession plan. Nothing. She blinked. How do you know all that? Because I pay attention. Because I did my homework. Because unlike you and Dad, I don't underestimate people. Her face hardened. This isn't about business, Elliot. This is about family. Is it? I asked. Because family didn't feel very important when Dad called me a disappointment in front of everyone. When you nodded and agreed. When Tyler sat there and smiled. She looked away. I didn't come here to fight, she said quietly. I came to ask you to give it back. I laughed. I couldn't help it. Give it back? Yes. You've made your point. You've proven whatever it is you needed to prove. Now give your father his company back. I walked to the window, looked out at the No. Elliot? No, Mom. I'm not giving it back. I didn't do this to make a point. I did this because I'm good at what I do, because I saw an opportunity, because for once in my life, I wanted something that was mine. It was never supposed to be yours, she said. Her voice cracked. It was supposed to be Tyler's. And there it was, the truth, the thing they'd never said out loud, but had always believed. I turned to look at her. Tyler's never worked a real day in his life. He sells condos to retirees and you treat him like he built the pyramids. I bought a multi-million-dollar company and you're asking me to give it back. Because it's the right thing to do. No, I said. It's the convenient thing. For you. She stared at me for a long moment. Then she picked up her purse. Your father wants to meet with you. she said. Tomorrow. At the house. I'm not going to the house. Then at his lawyer's office. Neutral ground. I considered it. Fine. But I'm bringing my lawyer. Elliot, that's not... Those are my terms. She pressed her lips together, nodded once. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. Then she left. I sat down at my desk and made coffee. Black. No sugar. My hands were steady. I called Richard. They want a meeting, I said. Of course they do. He sounded amused. They're going to try to intimidate you, make you feel guilty. Your father will probably threaten to sue. Can he? No. Everything was above board. You have the contracts, the investors, the legal documentation. He doesn't have a case. Good. Elliot, Richard said. His tone shifted. Are you sure you want to do this? Once you go to that meeting, there's no going back. This becomes real, permanent. I looked at the security footage still paused on my screen. My father's face, frozen in shock. I'm sure, I said. The next morning, I dressed carefully. Navy suit, white shirt, no tie. I wanted to look professional, but not like I was trying too hard. My lawyer, Karen, met me outside the office building. She was in her 40s, sharp, no nonsense. She'd handled the acquisition from start to finish. Ready? She asked. Yeah. We walked in together. The conference room was cold. White walls, glass table, leather chairs. My father sat at one end, his lawyer beside him. My mother sat next to my father, her hands folded in her lap. Tyler was there too, leaning back in his chair, arms crossed, smirking. I sat down across from them. No one spoke for a moment. Then my father broke the silence. Do you have any idea what you've done? His voice was low, controlled, but I could hear the rage underneath. I bought a company, I said. You stole from me. I used investors and legal contracts to acquire a struggling business. There's a difference. His lawyer leaned forward. Mr. Dawson, your father, built that company over 30 years. It's his legacy. His name is on the building. And it still is, I said. I'm not changing the name. I'm not firing anyone. I'm restructuring, modernizing, saving it. You had no right. I had every right. I kept my tone even. Your client allowed the company to deteriorate. He lost contracts. He mismanaged funds. He made poor decisions. I saw an opportunity, and I took it. My father's face turned red. You ungrateful... Dad. I looked him in the eye. You want to know what's ungrateful? Spending 22 years telling me I'm not good enough? Watching you hand Tyler everything while I worked for scraps? Listening to you call me a disappointment because I didn't fit your idea of success? That's not... It is. My voice didn't rise. I didn't need it to. And now I've done something you couldn't. I saved your company, and instead of thanking me, you're sitting here trying to take it back. Silence. Tyler shifted in his chair. You really think you can run that place? You're a code monkey, Elliot. You sit in front of a computer all day. I turned to him. And you sell houses to old people. What's your point? His smirk faded. My father leaned forward. I want my company back. No, I said. I'll sue you. Go ahead. You'll lose. Karen? I nodded to my lawyer. She opened her briefcase, slid a folder across the table. Everything is documented. Legal acquisition, proper disclosures, no fraud, no coercion. You have no case. My father's lawyer opened the folder, scanned the pages. His expression said everything. My father looked at him. Well? The lawyer sighed. He's right. There's no legal recourse here. My father sat back, his jaw tight. My mother reached for his hand. There has to be something. There isn't, Karen said. Your son now owns Dawson Industrial Supply. Legally. Completely. I stood up. I'll be at the office tomorrow, I said. If you want to discuss transitions, I'm open to that. But I'm not giving it back. I walked toward the door. Elliot. My father's voice stopped me. I turned. He looked older now, smaller. Why? He asked. I thought about that for a moment. Then I said, because you taught me that respect isn't given. It's earned. And I earned this. I left. In the parking lot, Karen stopped me. That was risky, she said. What was? All of it. Confronting them like that. You made enemies today. I unlocked my truck, climbed in. They were never on my side to begin with. That night I sat at my desk with my coffee. Black. Always black. I opened my laptop and looked at the company files. Tomorrow I'd walk into Dawson Industrial Supply as the owner, not the son, not the disappointment, the owner. And I was ready. The first day I walked into Dawson Industrial Supply as the owner, I expected chaos. What I got was silence. The building was a low-rise industrial complex on the edge of town. Gray concrete, small windows, a parking lot that needed repaving. It wasn't glamorous, but it was functional, and now it was mine. I pulled into the spot marked owner. My father's Lexus used to sit there every morning for 30 years. Now it was empty. I grabbed my laptop bag and walked toward the entrance. The security guard, Mike, according to his name tag, nodded at me. "Morning, Mr. Dawson." "Morning, Mike. Coffee's fresh in the break room if you need it." "Thanks." Inside, the office smelled like old carpet and burnt coffee. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Cubicles lined the main floor. A few offices along the back wall. People stared as I walked past. Some looked curious. Some looked nervous. Most just looked confused. I understood. To them, I was nobody. Just some kid who'd shown up out of nowhere and bought their company. I didn't stop to explain. I just kept walking. My father's old office, my office now, was at the end of the hall. I opened the door. It still smelled like him. Leather, Old Spice, stale cigars. The desk was massive, dark wood, cluttered with papers, files, a desktop computer that looked 15 years old. The walls were covered in plaques, awards, photos of my father shaking hands with clients, politicians, business partners. There was one family photo. My parents, Tyler, me. I was maybe 12 in the picture, standing off to the side, not smiling. I took it off the wall and put it in a drawer. Then I sat down. The chair creaked under my weight. I adjusted it, pulled out my laptop, opened the files Karen had sent me, financial reports, employee records, outstanding contracts, debts. It was worse than I'd thought. There was a knock at the door. "Come in." A woman in her 50s stepped inside. Short gray hair, reading glasses on a chain. She wore a blazer that had seen better days. "Mr. Dawson?" she said, carefully, like she wasn't sure which Dawson I was. "Elliot," I said. "Please." "I'm Linda. I've been the office manager here for 18 years. I stood up, shook her hand. "Good to meet you." She hesitated. "I just wanted to introduce myself and let you know that if you need anything, any help transitioning, understanding how things work around here, I'm available." "I appreciate that." She glanced around the office. "I cleaned out some of your father's personal items yesterday. Boxed them up. They're in storage if he wants them." "Thank you." Another pause. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "Go ahead." "What are your plans? For the company?" I sat back down, gestured for her to sit. She did. "I'm going to stabilize it," I said. "We're losing money, losing contracts. I'm going to figure out why, and I'm going to fix it. And the employees? I'm not planning any layoffs. Not yet, but I need to understand what's working and what isn't." She relaxed a little. "Your father? He's a good man, but he's old school. He didn't like change, didn't trust new systems. We've been running on outdated software for years." I noticed. "There's a lot of inefficiency here," she continued. "But there's also a lot of potential. The people who work here, they're good people. They care. They just need direction." I nodded. "Then that's what I'll give them." Over the next few days, I did what I do best. I observed. I walked the floor, talked to employees, watched how things operated, and I took notes. The problems were obvious once you looked for them. The inventory system was manual, handwritten logs, no digital tracking. The billing software was from 2007. It crashed constantly. Communication between departments was non-existent. Sales didn't talk to logistics. Logistics didn't talk to accounting. My father had run the company like it was still 1995, and it was killing them. On my third day, I called a meeting. The conference room was packed, managers, department heads, senior staff. Everyone looked tense. I stood at the head of the table. "I'm not here to fire anyone," I said. "I'm here to fix things." A few people exhaled. "This company is struggling. You all know that. But it's not because of you. It's because we're operating with systems that don't work anymore. We're losing contracts because we can't compete. We're bleeding money because we're inefficient." I pulled up a presentation on the screen behind me. "Here's what I'm proposing. We modernize. New inventory system. New billing software. Better communication between departments. Training for everyone who needs it. One of the older managers, Jim, I think his name was, raised his hand. That costs money, he said. Money we don't have. I've already secured funding, I said. We start next week. Silence. Then Linda spoke up. What about your father? Everyone looked at me. What about him? I asked. Is he coming back? No, I said. He's not. More silence. Look, I said. I know this is strange. I know you're all wondering who I am and why I'm here. The truth is, I grew up hearing about this company. My father built it. I respect that, but respect doesn't mean letting it die. I looked around the room. I'm asking you to trust me. Give me 90 days. If things don't improve, we'll reevaluate. But I think we can turn this around. Jim nodded slowly. 90 days. 90 days, I repeated. That night, I stayed late. The building was empty. Just me and the hum of the vending machines. I sat at my desk, drinking cold coffee from a paper cup. Not my usual black brew, but it would do. My phone buzzed. Tyler. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. What? I said. You really think you can do this? His voice was sharp, angry. Do what? Run Dad's company. You don't know the first thing about manufacturing, about logistics, about any of it. I'm learning. You're going to fail, Elliot. And when you do, everyone's going to see what I've always known. You're not special. You're just stubborn. I leaned back in my chair. Is that all? Dad's a mess. Mom's barely sleeping. You've destroyed this family. I bought a company, Tyler. If that destroyed the family was already broken. He was quiet for a moment. Then, you're going to regret this. And he hung up. I set my phone down, stared at the dark office around me. For a moment, just a moment, I wondered if he was right, if I'd made a mistake, if I'd gone too far. Then I looked at the financial reports on my screen, the plans I'd started putting together, the potential I could see in this place that my father had ignored. And I knew. I hadn't gone too far. I'd only just started. I finished my coffee, packed up my laptop, locked the office behind me. As I walked through the empty building, I thought about what Linda had said. The people here care. They just need direction. Maybe that was true for all of us. We just needed someone to believe we were worth the effort. And if my family wouldn't believe in me, I'd find people who would. 3 weeks into running the company, I found the first envelope. It was late afternoon. I was going through old filing cabinets in the office, looking for contracts my father had mentioned in an email from 2 years ago. The drawers were a mess. Receipts, invoices, papers stuffed in no particular order. Then I found it. A manila envelope. Sealed. Hidden under a stack of outdated insurance documents. No label. No markings. Just my father's handwriting on the back. Personal. Do not open. I opened it. Inside were bank statements. Not company accounts. Personal accounts. My father's name. My mother's name. And transfers. Lots of transfers. I sat down at the desk and started reading. Over the past 3 years, my father had been moving money out of the company. Small amounts at first. 5,000 here, 10,000 there. Then larger amounts. 20, 30, $50,000 at a time. All transferred to a personal account. Then dispersed to other places. I cross-referenced the dates with the company's financial records. Every time the company had a cash flow problem, it coincided with one of these transfers. My father hadn't been mismanaging the company. He'd been draining it. I made copies of everything, scanned them, stored them in 3 separate locations: cloud, external drive, and a physical safe I kept at my apartment. Then I kept digging. Over the next few days, I went through every file, every drawer, every box in storage, and I found more. Invoices that didn't match the work orders. Contracts signed with vendors that didn't exist. Payments made to shell companies with no traceable owners. My father had been embezzling from his own company, and he'd been doing it for years. I didn't confront anyone. Not yet. Instead, I brought everything to Karen. We met at her office downtown. I spread the documents across her conference table. She put on her reading glasses and started going through them. After 20 minutes, she looked up at me. This is bad, Elliot. How bad? Criminal bad. Your father could go to prison for this. I leaned back in my chair. How much did he take? She did the math. Conservatively? between $800,000 and $1.2 million. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Where did it go? I asked. She flipped through more pages. Some of it went to personal expenses, credit card payments, vacations, car payments, but a significant amount. She paused. It looks like it went to Tyler. Tyler? She pointed to a bank statement. These transfers here, monthly deposits into an account under his name, started about 2 years ago. I stared at the numbers. $30,000. Every month. For 2 years. $720,000. He was funding Tyler's lifestyle, I said quietly. It looks that way. I drove home in silence. My hands gripped the steering wheel tight enough that my knuckles turned white. I thought about Tyler's condo, his car, his vacations. I thought about how my parents had refused to help me buy a laptop for school, how they'd told me to figure it out, while they handed Tyler everything, with money stolen from the company. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat at my desk, drinking black coffee, staring at the documents on my screen. I could turn this over to the authorities. My father would be arrested, charged, probably convicted. My family would be destroyed. Or I could keep it quiet, use it as leverage, make sure they never came after me or the company again. I thought about what Richard had told me once. In business, information is power, but knowing when to use it, that's wisdom. I made a decision. I wouldn't go to the police. Not yet, but I also wouldn't let this go. The next morning, I called a meeting with Linda. I need you to pull every contract, every invoice, every financial document from the past 5 years, I said. She frowned. That's a lot of paperwork. I know, but I need to see everything. I need to understand where we were before I can figure out where we're going. She nodded slowly. Can I ask why? I looked at her. She'd been here 18 years. She was loyal, competent. I'm finding inconsistencies, I said carefully. I want to make sure we're clean going forward. Inconsistencies? Missing money. Transfers that don't make sense. I think someone was taking advantage of the company's poor record keeping. Her expression darkened. Your father? I didn't answer directly. Like I said, I want to make sure we're clean going forward. She stood up. I'll start pulling files today. Over the next week, Linda and I went through everything. The more we uncovered, the worse it got. My father hadn't just been embezzling. He'd been covering it up, poorly. Falsified invoices, duplicate payments, vendors that existed on paper but had no physical address. It was sloppy, arrogant, like he'd assumed no one would ever look closely enough to notice. Linda was horrified. I had no idea, she said one afternoon. I should have caught this. It's not your fault, I said. He kept you in the dark on purpose. But I was the office manager, and he was the owner. He controlled what you saw. I looked at her. You're not responsible for this. He is. She shook her head. What are you going to do? I'm going to fix it. Quietly. I'm going to restructure the finances, close the gaps, make sure it never happens again. And your father? I didn't answer. That weekend, Tyler called me. I almost didn't pick up, but I wanted to hear what he had to say. What? I answered. We need to talk. About Dad, about the company, about you being a complete asshole. I leaned back in my chair. I'm listening. Dad's falling apart, Elliot. He's depressed. He won't leave the house. Mom says he barely eats. And you need to fix this. Give him the company back. Let him retire with dignity. I laughed. Actually laughed. Dignity? You want to talk to me about dignity? What's that supposed to mean? It means I know where the money went, Tyler. Silence. What money? The money Dad stole from the company. The $800,000 he embezzled over the past 3 years. The $720,000 he transferred directly into your account. More silence. Then, I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. $30,000 a month, every month for 2 years. His voice got defensive. That was a loan. A loan? Did you sign paperwork? Did you agree to terms, interest rates, repayment schedules? It was family. It was stolen money, Tyler. Dad took it from the company that was barely staying afloat. And he gave it to you so you could play real estate agent and pretend you were successful. You don't know what you're talking about. I have the bank statements, the transfers, the invoices. I have everything. He didn't respond. Here's what's going to happen, I said. You're going to stay out of my way. You're not going to call me. You're not going to ask me for anything. And you're definitely not going to lecture me about dignity. Or what? or I turn everything over to the police, and Dad goes to prison, and you get investigated as an accessory. You wouldn't try me. I hung up. I set my phone down and stared at the wall. My hands were shaking, not from fear, from anger, from years of being overlooked, dismissed, told I wasn't good enough, while they stole and lied and smiled at dinner. I poured another cup of coffee. Black, always black, and I got back to work. Because this wasn't over. This was just the beginning. The truth came in pieces, small, brutal pieces that didn't make sense until I put them all together. It started with a phone call from Linda. "Elliot, I found something." It was 8 p.m. on a Tuesday. I was still at the office going through vendor contracts. "What is it?" "I was reconciling old accounts like you asked, and I found a payment, a large payment, to a company called Meridian Consulting Group." I pulled up my laptop. "How much?" $250,000, paid out in March of 2023. I typed the name into the search bar. Nothing came up. "Does the contract say what the payment was for?" "That's the thing," Linda said. "There's no contract, just an invoice and a wire transfer authorization, signed by your father. Send me everything you have." 10 minutes later, the files hit my inbox. I opened them. The invoice was generic. Consulting services rendered. No details, no breakdown, no scope of work. The company address was a P.O. box in Delaware. I ran a corporate search. Meridian Consulting Group LLC, registered in Delaware. Dissolved 6 months after the payment. Owner listed as Tyler Dawson. I sat back in my chair. The pieces started to fall into place. Tyler hadn't just been receiving money from our father. He'd been actively involved in taking it. I called Karen. "I need you to look into something," I said. "What?" "A shell company, Meridian Consulting Group, registered in Delaware, owned by my brother, received $250,000 from Dawson Industrial in 2023. She was quiet for a moment. "That's fraud, Elliot." "I know. If your brother set up a fake company to funnel money out of the business, that's wire fraud, conspiracy. This isn't just embezzlement anymore. How much trouble are we talking? Federal charges, prison time, for both your father and your brother." I closed my eyes. "Can you dig deeper? Find out if there are more companies like this?" "I'll start tomorrow." She called me back 2 days later. "There are 3 more," she said. Apex Solutions, Redwood Advisory, Summit Strategic Partners, all registered in Delaware, all owned by Tyler, all dissolved within a year of receiving payments. How much total? $680,000. Combined with the Meridian payment, that's $930,000. I did the math in my head. Combined with the direct transfers to Tyler's account, my father had funneled over $1.6 million to my brother, while the company fell apart. While employees worried about their jobs, while I was told to figure things out on my own. I didn't tell anyone what I'd found. Not Linda, not Richard, not even Karen beyond what she needed to know legally. I kept it to myself, and I watched. My mother called me a week later. "Elliot, we need to talk." "About?" "Your father wants to see you. Alone. No lawyers, just the 2 of you." I almost said no, but curiosity got the better of me. "Where?" "The house, tomorrow evening." "Fine." I drove to my parents' house the next day. It was a place I used to know by heart. Now it felt foreign, like I was visiting a museum of someone else's life. My father answered the door. He looked older, thinner. His hair was grayer than I remembered. "Elliot," he said. "Dad." He stepped aside. Let me in. The house was quiet. Too quiet. "Where's Mom?" I asked. "She's at her sister's for the night. I wanted to talk to you alone." We sat in the living room. Him in his usual chair, me on the couch across from him. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then he said, "You've done well. With the company." I didn't respond. "Linda says things are improving, that you've brought in new systems, new contracts. The employees respect you. They needed direction," I said. He nodded, looked down at his hands. "I know you think I'm a failure," he said quietly. "I know you think I ruined everything. I don't think you're a failure, Dad. I think you made bad choices. I built that company from nothing, and then you destroyed it from the inside." He flinched. I leaned forward. "I know about the transfers, the shell companies, the fake invoices. I know everything." His face went pale. "Elliot, You stole over $1.6 million. You funneled it to Tyler. You lied to your employees. You put people's livelihoods at risk so you could fund his lifestyle. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? He was quiet for a long time. Then finally, he spoke. Tyler needed help. I stared at him. Help? He was struggling. He had debts, bad investments. He was drowning, Elliot. I couldn't just let him fail. So you stole from your own company to bail him out? I was going to pay it back. With what? The company was barely breaking even. You were taking out loans just to make payroll. He looked away. I thought I could fix it. I thought if I could just get through the next quarter, the next year, but you didn't fix it. You made it worse. And when it all started falling apart, you blamed me. You called me a disappointment because I didn't fit your image of success. Meanwhile, Tyler was robbing you blind, and you let him. He's my son. So am I. The words came out harder than I intended. My father looked at me, really looked at me. And for the first time in my life, I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Shame. I'm sorry, he said quietly. I didn't respond. I failed you, Elliot. I see that now. I was so focused on Tyler, on protecting him, that I ignored you. And you turned out to be the one who didn't need me at all. I always needed you, I said. I just learned to stop asking. He wiped his eyes. What are you going to do? Are you going to turn us in? I thought about that. I thought about the evidence sitting in my safe, the bank statements, the invoices, the shell companies. I thought about how easy it would be to destroy them, to watch my father and Tyler get arrested, to see them face consequences for once in their lives. But I also thought about my mother, about the employees who still depended on the company, about the legacy my father had built before he tore it down. I'm not going to the police, I said finally. He exhaled. Thank you. But you're going to do exactly what I say. You're going to stay away from the company. You're not going to contact Tyler about any of this. You're not going to ask me for money. You're not going to interfere in any way. Elliot, those are my terms. Break them, and I take everything to the authorities. He nodded slowly. Okay, and one more thing. What? Tyler pays it back. Every dollar. I don't care how long it takes. He pays it back. My father looked down. He doesn't have it. Then he'll figure it out, just like I did. I stood up, walked toward the door. Elliot. I turned. My father was still sitting there, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. I really am sorry, he said. I looked at him for a long moment. Then I said, I know, and I left. I sat in my truck in the driveway for a long time. My hands rested on the steering wheel, the key in the ignition, but I didn't turn it. I just sat there, thinking about everything I'd learned, about how the people who were supposed to protect you could be the ones who hurt you most, about how love and loyalty weren't the same thing, about how you could spend your whole life trying to earn someone's respect only to realize they were never capable of giving it. I pulled out my thermos, poured myself a cup of black coffee, still warm, and I drank it slowly. Then I started the truck, and I drove away. Tyler showed up at my office 3 days later. I was in a meeting with the logistics team when Linda knocked on the door. I'm sorry to interrupt, she said, but your brother is here. He's insisting. I looked at the team. We'll pick this up tomorrow. They filed out. Tyler walked in. He looked like hell. Unshaven, wrinkled shirt, dark circles under his eyes. You told him, he said. Told who what? Dad, you told him you know about the money. I closed my laptop. He told you? He called me last night, said I have to pay it back. All of it. Tyler laughed. A bitter, broken sound. $1.6 million, Elliot. How the hell am I supposed to do that? The same way you spent it. Figure it out. I don't have it. Then sell something. Your car, your condo, I don't care. He stepped closer. You're really going to do this? Destroy your own family? You did that yourself. His face twisted. I didn't ask for any of this. Dad offered. He wanted to help me. He stole from his own company to fund your fake life. It wasn't fake. You set up shell companies, Tyler. You committed fraud. You knew exactly what you were doing. He went quiet. Then his expression changed, hardened. You know what? You win. Congratulations. You got the company. You got your revenge. You get to be the golden child now. This was never about that, wasn't it? He moved toward the door, stopped, turned back. You think you're better than me, smarter. But you're just bitter. You've always been bitter. And you've always been a thief. He slammed the door on his way out. I sat there in the silence. My hands were shaking, not from anger, from something else. Exhaustion, maybe, or relief. It was finally out in the open. No more pretending. No more silence. That night, my mother called. "Tyler's leaving town," she said. Her voice was flat, defeated. "Where's he going?" "I don't know. He won't tell me. He just packed a bag and left. Said he needs to figure things out." "Good. Good?" Her voice cracked. "Elliot, he's your brother. He's a criminal, Mom. He made mistakes. He committed fraud for years, and you and Dad enabled it." Silence. "I know you're angry," she said quietly, "but you need to understand. We were trying to protect him. What about protecting me?" She didn't answer. "I spent my whole life watching you give him everything while I got nothing. And now I find out you were funding him with stolen money, and you still want me to feel sorry for him? Elliot, I'm done, Mom. I'm done trying to make you see me. I'm done competing for scraps. I have the company. I have a future. And I did it without any of you. Please don't do this." I hung up. I poured myself coffee. Black. Cold now. I didn't care. I drank it anyway. My phone buzzed. A text from Richard. "Heard your brother left town. You okay?" I typed back, "Yeah, I'm fine." "Good. You did the right thing." Doesn't feel like it. It never does. But that's how you know it mattered. I set my phone down, looked around my office. The company was stabilizing. Contracts were coming in. Employees were working with purpose again. I'd won. But it didn't feel like victory. It felt like loss. I didn't hear from Tyler for 6 weeks. No calls, no texts, no forwarding address. My parents didn't talk to me either. And honestly, I didn't mind. I threw myself into the company. Every morning I was there by 7. Every night I left after dark. Linda said I was working too hard. I told her I was working exactly as hard as I needed to. The changes were paying off. New inventory system, new billing software, better communication protocols. We landed 3 major contracts in 2 months. Clients my father had lost years ago came back when they saw we were operating efficiently again. Revenue was up, morale was up, the company was thriving. But I stayed cold, focused, careful, because I knew something they didn't. This wasn't over yet. The first sign came in an email. It was from a lawyer I didn't recognize. Subject line, Re. Dawson Industrial Supply Acquisition. I opened it. "Dear Mr. Dawson, I represent Tyler Dawson in a legal matter concerning the acquisition of Dawson Industrial Supply. My client contends that the acquisition was conducted under duress and without proper disclosure of material facts. We are prepared to file suit unless this matter can be resolved amicably. Please contact my office at your earliest convenience." I forwarded it to Karen. She called me 10 minutes later. "He's bluffing," she said. "You sure?" "Positive. He has no case. The acquisition was clean. He's fishing. So what do I do?" "Nothing. Let me handle it. I'll send a response. He'll back off. And if he doesn't, then we bury him in discovery and he wishes he'd never filed." Karen was right. 2 weeks later, the lawyer withdrew the threat. No explanation, no apology, just silence. But I wasn't stupid. Tyler was desperate, and desperate people do dangerous things. So I started preparing. I made copies of everything, every bank statement, every invoice, every fraudulent transfer. I organized it all into a single comprehensive file. Timeline, evidence, documentation. If Tyler came at me again, I'd be ready. But I also did something else, something I hadn't planned on doing. I reached out to the employees Tyler had screwed over. There were 3 vendors who'd been stiffed on payments during my father's final years. Small companies, family-owned. My father had ordered materials, received them, then never paid. The vendors had written it off as bad debt and moved on, but I found their information, and I called them. "This is Elliot Dawson. I'm the new owner of Dawson Industrial. I'm calling about an outstanding invoice from 2022. Silence on the other end. "I want to make it right," I said. "Can you send me the original invoice? I'll pay it. Plus interest." One by one they did. I paid them all. $43,000 total. It wasn't about the money. It was about doing what my father should have done. Word spread. Within a month, I started getting calls from other vendors, Other clients, people who'd been burned by my father's mismanagement. Is it true? They'd ask. Are you really different? Come see for yourself, I'd say. And they did. By the end of the quarter, we'd rebuilt relationships my father had destroyed. We weren't just recovering, we were growing. One evening, Linda knocked on my office door. You've got a visitor, she said. Who? Your father. I looked up from my laptop. Tell him I'm busy. Elliot. Linda, tell him I'm busy. She hesitated, then nodded. I watched through the window as she walked back to the lobby, as my father stood up, as they talked. He looked small, defeated. He glanced toward my office, saw me watching. I didn't look away. Neither did he. For a long moment, we just stared at each other through the glass. Then he turned and walked out. That night, I stayed late again. I sat at my desk with my thermos of black coffee. The office was dark except for my desk lamp. I pulled up the file I'd been building, the evidence against Tyler and my father. Everything was there, organized, ready. I had the power to destroy them completely. One phone call to the FBI, one email to the right prosecutor, and it would all be over. But I didn't make the call. Not because I forgave them, but because I realized something. They were already destroying themselves. Tyler was in hiding, broke, desperate. My father had lost his company, his reputation, his pride. My mother was trapped between two sons who wanted nothing to do with each other. I didn't need to punish them. Time would do that for me. All I had to do was keep building, keep succeeding, keep proving that I never needed them in the first place. I closed the laptop, finished my coffee, and I made a decision. I wouldn't turn them in. But I wouldn't help them either. They made their choices. Now they'd live with the consequences, and I'd live with mine. I locked the office, walked to my truck. The parking lot was empty. The city was quiet. I sat behind the wheel for a moment, keys in my hand. Then I started the engine, and I drove home. Not to my parents' house, not to the past, just home, to the life I'd built, the one they said I'd never have. 4 months later, I got a call from Linda. Elliot, you need to see this. She forwarded me a link to a local news article. The headline read, Local real estate agent under investigation for fraud. Below it was Tyler's photo. I clicked the article. Tyler Dawson, 25, is under investigation by state authorities for alleged fraudulent business practices. Multiple clients have come forward claiming Dawson misrepresented properties, falsified documents, and collected deposits for transactions that never materialized. The investigation began after a complaint was filed by Margaret Chen, a retired school teacher who lost $75,000 in a failed real estate transaction. He seemed so professional, Chen told reporters. I trusted him completely. Dawson could not be reached for comment. His real estate license has been suspended pending the outcome of the investigation. I set my phone down, stared at the wall. Tyler had run from one scam right into another. And this time, he'd gotten caught. I didn't call him. I didn't call my parents. I just went back to work. But the news kept coming. 2 weeks later, another article. Tyler had been formally charged. Wire fraud, theft by deception, multiple counts. If convicted, he was looking at 5 to 10 years. My mother called me that night. I almost didn't answer, but I did. Elliot. Her voice was hoarse, like she'd been crying for days. Please, we need your help. With what? Tyler's been arrested. He needs bail money. He needs a lawyer. We don't have... No. Elliot, please. He's your brother. He's a criminal, Mom. He stole from those people the same way he stole from Dad's company. The same way he stole from me my entire life. This is different. It's not. It's exactly the same. He's a con artist. He always has been. And you and Dad enabled him every step of the way. She was crying now. We're losing everything. The house, the savings, your father's health insurance. We can't afford... You should have thought about that before you funneled $1.6 million to a thief. Elliot, I'm done, Mom. I helped once. I saved the company. I gave you both a way out, and you still chose Tyler over me. So now you get to live with that choice. I hung up. I sat in the silence of my apartment, my hands wrapped around a mug of black coffee. I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel satisfied. I just felt tired. Over the next few months, I watched it all unfold from a distance. Tyler pleaded guilty, got 3 years in minimum security. My parents sold their house. Moved into a small rental on the other side of town. My father's health declined. Stress, the doctors said. High blood pressure. Anxiety. My mother stopped calling. The company, meanwhile, kept growing. We expanded into 2 new markets, hired 15 new employees, landed a contract with a national distributor. Revenue was up 40% year over year. Linda got promoted to COO. Jim became head of operations. People who'd been overlooked under my father's leadership finally had a chance to shine, and they did. One afternoon, Richard stopped by the office. "Heard about your brother," he said. "Yeah. How do you feel about it?" I thought about that. "Honestly, I don't feel much of anything." He nodded. "That's fair. You warned him. He didn't listen." "I didn't warn him to be kind," I said. "I warned him because I wanted him to know I could destroy him if I wanted to." "And could you have?" "Yeah. I had everything. The evidence, the connections. I could have made one call and ended him 2 years ago. But you didn't." "No. I just let him keep being who he was. And eventually it caught up with him." Richard smiled. "You know what that is? That's wisdom. Doesn't feel like it. It never does. But that's what separates people like you from people like him. You think ahead. You build. He just takes until there's nothing left to take. A year after I'd bought the company, I got a letter. No return address. Just my name on the envelope. Inside was a single piece of paper. My father's handwriting. "Elliot, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I know I failed you in every way a father can fail a son. I'm not writing to ask for money, or help, or anything else. I'm writing to tell you that I'm proud of you. You took something I destroyed and made it better. You gave people jobs, dignity, hope. You're the man I should have been. I'm sorry I never saw that until it was too late. Dad." I read it 3 times. Then I folded it, put it in my desk drawer, and I went back to work. I didn't respond. Not because I was cruel, but because some things don't need a response. Some things just need to be left in the past. That evening, I locked up the office and walked to my truck. The sun was setting, orange and red streaking across the sky. I climbed in, started the engine. My thermos sat in the cup holder, empty now. I'd have to make more coffee tomorrow morning. Black, like always. I drove through the city, past my old apartment, past the neighborhood where I grew up, past all the places that used to feel like home. None of them did anymore. Home was the office now, the company, the people who worked there. Home was the life I'd built from nothing, the life they said I'd never have. Tyler was in prison. My father was broken. My mother was alone, and I was free. Not because I'd destroyed them, but because I'd let them destroy themselves. Karma doesn't need your help. It just needs time. 2 years after I bought the company, I stood in the parking lot at dawn. The building looked different now. New sign, fresh paint, solar panels on the roof, Dawson Industrial Supply, still my father's name, but my legacy now. I unlocked the door, walked through the quiet office, stopped at the break room, made coffee, black, strong, poured it into my thermos, the same one I'd carried since the beginning. Some things don't need to change. I thought about my father sometimes. The letter he'd sent, the apology I never answered. I didn't regret the silence. Some wounds don't heal. They just teach you to carry them better. Tyler would be out in 18 months with good behavior. I'd heard through family friends. I didn't plan to be there when he got out. My mother sent a Christmas card last year. I didn't open it. Not out of cruelty, out of clarity. I'd spent my whole life chasing their approval, and the moment I stopped, I found something better. Respect, purpose, peace. Linda knocked on my office door later that morning. "Morning, boss. Ready for the board meeting?" "Yeah. Give me 5 minutes." She smiled. "You know, 2 years ago, half these people thought you'd run this place into the ground. And now? Now they know better." I grabbed my coffee, stood up. "Good. Let's keep it that way." The meeting went well. New contracts, expansion plans, a future I'd built with my own hands. When it ended, I stayed behind, sat alone in the conference room, looked out the window at the parking lot, at the city beyond. I'd won, not by destroying them, but by building something they couldn't touch. And that was the quiet kind of justice nobody talks about. I pulled out my phone, scrolled through old photos, found one from years ago, family dinner, Tyler smiling, my parents proud, me in the corner, invisible. I looked at it for a long moment, then I deleted it. Not out of anger, out of acceptance. That night, I drove home. Not to my parents' house, just home. I sat on my balcony with my thermos, watched the city lights flicker on one by one. My phone buzzed. A text from Richard. "Proud of you, kid. You earned this." I typed back, "Thanks. Couldn't have done it without you." "You could have, but I'm glad you didn't have to." I smiled, set my phone down. If you've been pushed around by your own family, if you've been called a disappointment by the people who should have believed in you, I want you to know something. You don't need their approval. You don't need their validation. You just need to keep building. Keep showing up. Keep proving, quietly, steadily, that you were always enough. The people who can't see your worth, that's their blindness, not your failure. I finished my coffee, stood up, walked inside. Tomorrow I'd do it all again. Build. Lead, grow, not for them, for me. And that was the only victory that ever mattered.